Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
I'm with Dr. Monali Rahalkar, a scientist at Pune's Dr. Agarkar Research Institute, who, along with her husband, Dr. Rahul Bahulikar, are part of an international team of scientists, researchers, even some journalists who are investigating the coronavirus, the COVID pandemic that has struck the world for the last year and a half, and India has been amongst the worst hit. Over 300,000 people have been killed. Of course, several thousand more have been infected. Dr. Rahalkar, welcome to The Print.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jyoti, for your kind introduction. And I'm very happy to share my thoughts with you about the COVID-19 origins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Rahalkar, you have been part, your papers, you've written both prints, preprints, as well as papers that are now highly acclaimed and are part of this sort of international group of scientists that are probing the coronavirus pandemic. And none other than the US President, Dr. Joe Biden, has now, just a couple of weeks ago, on the 26th of May, ordered an inquiry into the lab in Wuhan, the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where supposedly the information first came out on the eve of 2019. So tell us a little bit about your paper and where this investigation is at.
Yes. So initially, as you all know, that the pandemic struck India in around, we knew from March, right? 10th of March, there were patients. And then there was this, big lockdown. It started on 24th of March. So being a scientist, I and my husband, we both are scientists, and we all were confounded to our homes. And apart from our work, because we were asked to do work from home, we were seriously concerned about the pandemic. And that's why we thought to read some papers that how this all started, right? Because that was never mentioned. The Hunan market was first said to be the source of the pandemic, that it originated from those wild animals. But later on, this theory was also disproved because there were some cases which were apart from the Hunan market. So they were before from the, they were not connected directly to the Hunan market. And
Wuhan, you're talking about this Wuhan wet market that you're talking about?
Yes, Wuhan seafood Hunan market. The Hunan market, it is called. The seafood market was later on ruled out, and the bats were thought to be the reservoirs of this pandemic too, because the SARS, after the sequence was published, the SARS coronavirus 2 was genetically most similar to SARS-1, and the horseshoe bats. These are the tiny bats, not the huge bats what we see flying most of the times in India. So these horseshoe bats are very tiny animals, and those were thought to be the reservoirs also for this COVID-19 virus. So we were just discussing this at in our home, that how could these horseshoe bats, because the horseshoe bats were majorly present in the south of China, like the Yunnan province and the Guangdong province. So we were just concerned that how this pandemic started in Wuhan. The same time, because this was around the distance of about 1800 kilometers, the distance between Yunnan and Wuhan. So we also read about an interview about Zheng Lixi, the bat woman, at the same time, and also we read a few other papers.
Just to interrupt you, Dr. Monali, just for my viewers, Dr. Shi Zhengli is the head of the Wuhan Institute of Virology, the same city where, and this is a very, very specialized lab in Wuhan, yes. And this is where the so-called the COVID lab leak that Dr. Monali is going to tell us about now. So she's in that institute, Yeah,
she is deputy director, but but she leads the coronavirus research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. She's also popularly called as the Bat Woman of China, because she led all these expeditions into remote caves in the Yunnan province. So an interview about this Batwoman was published that time, and I was curiously going through this interview, and it mentioned about a particular incident in a mine shaft. It was a mine in Yunnan province, right? And then going to the other papers, what we actually found out, because nothing was known about SARS coronavirus 2. So we started to look at its next phylogenetic neighbor. So like as we have brothers and sisters, these viruses also have brothers and sisters, for example. And this RATG13, or everyone calls it as RATG13, it was the next neighbor of coronavirus 2. They had said that it came from Yunnan. But Zheng Li, who published this paper in Nature at the start of the pandemic, she did not mention from exact geographical location of that particular region in Yunnan. So we had to dig, information about this. So Zheng Li had collected a sample in 2013, and the number was 4991. And apparently, they did not want to probably disclose this older name, in the new paper.
That coronavirus is called RATG13, and it was
yes, and 96% related to SARS coronavirus. So RATG13 was 96% related to coronavirus 2, the COVID-19 virus.
And this Dr. Shi Zhengli, who is the director
yes.
of the Wuhan Institute of Virology, did not reveal this information.
Yeah, she revealed that it was 96% related, but she did not reveal that it was from a Mojang mineshaft, and also the older name of the virus, which could have led us, to the other information about the mine.
Right.
So in Yunnan, there is this Mojang region. It's a big region, and in that there was a copper mine, and it was infested by bats. So once we found out from actually we didn't discover whether this 4991 was RATG13. There were some people already, talking about it. And when we joined this particular mission, we already saw that there was a preprint by Dean Bengtsson that he said that this 4991 was, RATG13.
But
so we applied.
Who is Dean Bengtsson? And how are you?
Okay. Yeah, he was, I think he's, I don't know his many details, but he was just a researcher working on the same problem. Yeah. And he had published a preprint saying that the sequence of 4991 matches with RATG13. So we got this information from this preprint and we verified it at our end. We applied, we do a blast search, and then we confirmed that 4991 is RATG13. Now the 4991 had a particular reference, because every sequence deposited in the NCBI has a reference. So we found the reference paper for this, and the reference paper clearly indicated that this was picked up from a mine shaft. It was an abandoned mine shaft, copper mine in Mojang region. And then when I read this paper, it struck me that Zheng Li had mentioned about this Mojang mine shaft in her interview. So we connected these two things by, confirming the location. So she had mentioned that they had gone to this Mojang mine and they had gone to this bat-infested caves. There were 6 types of bats, including the horseshoe bats, and horseshoe bats are responsible for SARS, right? So there were different kinds of bats, and the mine was filled with bat feces. But she mentioned that there were 6 men who went to clean this particular mine shaft in 2012, and 3 of them had died, right, from this 6. So she did not mention RATG13 in this particular her story, in her interview. So somehow, it was the skill of the readers who had to connect different things. So this was like scattered everywhere, and we were like, detectives putting dots together and then connecting them to see that, okay, so it was like a revelation to us. Like I and my husband were working on this issue, and one day, I think it was early May, like 10th or 12th of May, that we were like, eureka, like we found that the same mine is connected to this closest relative of SARS-CoV-2, and the same mine had pneumonia infections in these 6 miners. Mm-hmm. The same mine was also associated with the death of 3 miners, and they had gone to clean the bat feces in 2012. And the story was like, after this 2012 incident of pneumonia cases, Wuhan Institute of Virology was asked to do a thorough investigation of the bat viruses from this mine, and that's why they were collecting the bat fecal samples. So that's why Zhengli was collecting the bat fecal samples from the Mojang mine. So what we found out that it was the same mine shaft. It was the same mine shaft.
So you and your husband discovered this connection between that mine shaft and the
RATG 13 and the miner's death.
And the miner's death. But this happened in 2012. And now the COVID pandemic broke in.
This happened in 2012. Okay. So, yeah, I will tell you the later story. I mean, this was like published as a preprint that time. And then we have now later, last year, October, we published it as a full-length paper because we got some details about this pneumonia cases. They were in a master thesis published in Chinese language. And that's how the role of Seeker, you must have read about Seeker, right? So Seeker read our preprint, you know, and these were...
Tell us who the Seeker is.
Yeah, so no one knows who the Seeker is. Seeker is the seeker, you know, he seeks information. So, and then Seeker, he applied, Seeker was a person, he's in India. So now he has disclosed something. So he's in India, he's in his, you know, he's around early 30s, I can say. And he has a knowledge about maybe Chinese language, preliminary knowledge. And he researched on the cnki.net website. That's the official website for depositing Chinese master and PhD thesis and other papers. So all this information is in Chinese language. So we can access it. I mean, I myself could access it with a password. We can create login. But first you have to be, you know, conversant because everything is in Chinese. So first of all, so when he told us that this thesis is there, we also found the English version of that site and then created a login and password. And somehow when we got the thesis downloaded, we were very happy that we could do something because everything on the page was in Chinese and then, you know, it was difficult. So Seeker was the one who connected us with this Drastic Twitter group. It is an unofficial group. It is an open group. Anyone can join. And people are just, you know, looking at the COVID-19 origins in the most scientific way. So there is no politics, no nothing like, you know, means there are no gains from this. We are just looking at it from a scientific point of view.
Right. So this man called Seeker, who calls himself the Seeker on Twitter, that's his Twitter handle. You know this gentleman, and you say that he lives in India, somewhere in Eastern India, is it?
Yes, yes.
And you know who he is?
Yeah, we connected. We normally connect on Twitter, so or also on emails.
Right.
But I haven't seen him directly. He was just shown in some documentary once. Yeah.
So anyway, so both of you, so he led you to this group called
Yes.
which is an activist.
Yes. Yeah, he did two things. Like he got the master thesis and he told us that your preprint can be improved because this master thesis is completely based on the 6 minors cases, right?
Yeah.
So he told us about that, and also he introduced us to the Drastic Twitter group.
This is a group called Drastic. It's an acronym, really. DRA.
It's an acronym, yes.
DRA.
Should I tell you what is it?
Yes,
So
please.
it is a decentralized, radical, autonomous search team investigating COVID-19 origins. So that is the long form of Drastic.
Fine. But tell me, Dr. Monali, how are you still... Okay, so you have all these disparate pieces of information, right? You have the bat fecal coronavirus, which is the RATG. Then you have Dr. Shi Zhengli's interview and other papers from the World Institute of Virology. And then you have the COVID-19 pandemic, which bursts open in 2020 in Wuhan. Now, from 2012 to 2020, this 8 years... or 7.5 years, because it was on the eve of 2020, December 2019 that this happened. Now, how are you making the connection that there was a leak in the Wuhan COVID lab?
Okay. So we have to understand certain things. As you said that this incident happened in 2012, but later on there were revelations by Zhengli. So after our peer-reviewed paper was published about these cases, Zhengli published an addendum in Nature saying that they had gone to this particular mine for 3 more years and they had collected around 1,300 different bat coronavirus samples. from the same mine. So this was about the mine. But in general, Zheng Lishi and along with Peter Daszak, they have collected until now around 22,000 samples of bat coronaviruses and bat and rodent coronaviruses from various regions in Yunnan, Guangdong region, and they have made a sort of a biobank of these samples in the Wuhan Institute. This is the first point. So, Wuhan Institute of Virology is the biggest repository, you can say, of these samples. Mm-hmm. Second point, they have not stopped doing this. So, 2012, we see that there were pneumonia cases, fine, but they collected all these samples in the subsequent years. What did they do apart from collecting samples? Mm-hmm. So, they also isolate viruses, right? They isolate different viruses from these materials. Not only they do isolation of the viruses, they also do some genetic engineering work in the viruses. For example, I'll tell you one example. For example, they have a particular sample. They do the sequencing of the genome of that particular virus. And then the spike protein. Now, everyone knows about the spike protein, right? From the because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah. So the spike protein is the most important region of the virus. So such spike proteins are cloned into the backbones of other viruses. So which they have already. And then they test this particular virus's pathogenicity by checking the binding of that virus to human receptors. Right. Now, for checking that, they use humanized mice. So Zheng Lishi lab had humanized mice. They got it from North Carolina lab. So in short, I can say that they do first of all bat coronavirus collection from the wild case. Yeah. Point number 2, they do genetic engineering work on these viruses. They do genome sequencing. So not just RATG13, but they have sequenced several viruses, but they have not disclosed all this information. Point number 3, that the databases by WIV went suddenly offline in September 2019. This was discovered by Drastic team. So on 12 September 2019, they had this database which had all the information about these 22,000 viruses. It suddenly got offline. So now the filling the gaps in between. So, I mean, you can only imagine that if there are these techniques with this particular lab, and in China, there are so many other labs also working on coronaviruses, doing genetic engineering experiments. So if the information about these viruses, the genomic information is there, anybody, including WIV, even the other labs can create mutated viruses, synthetic viruses, or, similar viruses to RATG13, which are similar to SARS-CoV-2. So we do not have a direct proof what happened, exactly what happened to the creation of this SARS-CoV-2. Or, I mean, there could be another possibility that there was a natural virus existing in some of the miners or the mine shaft samples or some other samples, which is not known to the world, which could have leaked out. So these are several possibilities. And strengthening this hypothesis, I would say to strengthen this hypothesis, we got some piece of crucial information from Zheng Lishi that they were using low security labs. So there are various security levels in the biosafety levels. So they were using biosafety level 2 and 3 for doing coronavirus research. And Zheng Lishi said this in a science-based question and answer session. So all this information, is, you can think, anyone can think about it and then, think themselves whether is this a circumstantial evidence more towards lab leak. Still the natural hypothesis remains, but there are more evidences, to a possible lab leak, to a plausible lab leak.
Do you believe, Dr. Monali, that it could be a plausible lab leak?
Yes, I think circumstantial evidences point out towards a plausible lab leak. It is still an hypothesis, but yes, there are several things as I mentioned. Also, one point I forgot to mention that about this mine shaft. So Zheng Lishi also said that they analyze antibodies of certain people who were living close to the mine shaft. I don't know, this question was, why she answered in such a way, but maybe she had this in her mind, that someone could ask about this. So if you look at the mineshaft, she said that all the samples were negative. So there was no natural spillover from the mineshaft. So it happened once maybe. So these miners got sick, but the disease did not get transmitted. So there could be some, manipulation in the actual virus what they got from the mineshaft, which could have led to such a COVID-2 virus.
Right, but these are, so I'm just asking you, do you believe what Shi Zhengli is saying, or do you believe that she's hiding some information?
Yes, she many times, if you look at her webinars and if you look at her papers, she often tells you the half truth, like, she reveals some things and she hides some things in her papers also. For example, I will tell you 2-3 examples. So 4991 name was not revealed in RATG 13 paper. Then in her interview, she did not reveal that the mine was connected with RATG 13. So she should have mentioned that. Third thing is that she told in her the same article which I mentioned, the science question and answer, she said that all the people in WIV were negative for the SARS-CoV-2. And recently, some of our drastic team, they are data analysts. So Jill Deminoff is quite vocal on the different, TV and other media. So Jill Deminoff, they did a proper statistical analysis that when, because since Wuhan was a hotspot, Wuhan was a place where it all started. It cannot happen that, there are, for example, 500 people in an institute and all of them are negative. This is impossible. So she told that everyone was negative in WIB. So these are sort of lies, right? So this is not true.
Yeah, but tell me, she, according to what you just said, that this Dr. Shi Zhengli told you, I mean, she has said in an interview that the investigation for SARS-CoV-2, which is the COVID-19 virus, basically took place in a lab which had security of level 2 and 3. But
yes,
but Wuhan Institute of Virology is level 4, isn't it?
No, that is one of the lab. So they have a P4 lab. Mm-hmm. But they did not use it for their bad coronavirus research.
I see.
So WIV has several labs. Okay, let me tell you this point also. So some of our members have done more investigation that how many different labs are there in Wuhan. So Wuhan, I will tell you that there are 3 major institutes which work on coronaviruses. WIV is the premium institute which has the P4 lab. So normally they show us the P4 lab, right? The people with astronaut suits and the pressure and all. So that is the P4 lab. But they have several level 2 and level 3 labs, and they have 2 campuses in Wuhan. So there is a new campus and there is a old campus, which is more towards the city center or Wuchang region, I think. And there is Wuhan CDC. Wuhan CDC is opposite to the seafood market. Wuhan CDC also does research on coronaviruses, and there was this gentleman who caught several bats. You must have seen his video. Yeah. This Tian, he works in Wuhan CDC. So they also work extensively. They have animal labs, and there are, I think, 23 kind of different labs in Wuhan. There is Wuhan University. Now Wuhan University also works on bats and coronaviruses. So there are so many different places that WIV is thought to be the place because they did most of the research. Zhengli did most of the research, but these other labs could also be a possible source of leak. We do not know now.
So now you're saying that over the last 7 or 8 years, since 2012, when they found these bat species in that mine shaft, so they got they brought the species all the way from this Mojiang, which is in Yunnan province, and 1,300 kilometers or 1,400 kilometers from Wuhan. And they have been working on this coronavirus variant for the last 7 years.
Yes, not only in 2012, but I told you that till 2015, that recently told, means they did not tell this before.
Yeah.
They did not tell after the pandemic also. In November 2020, Zinglishi published an addendum because we published our paper and we asked several questions to the WIB, open questions in our paper, that why didn't they report this incident to, it was, I think, documented in CDC of China, but they did not report it to WHO or several different things, like, you know. So in a sort of a reply, they replied to their own paper. They said that we actually researched this Mojang mineshaft for 3 more years. So total 3 years, not 3 more years, total from 2012 to 2015. Yeah, that was the point, no? What I was telling you. Yeah, they researched on this for a long time. They brought so many samples also from this Mojang mineshaft. So they did not reveal this information before, and later on they told us that there were 8 other SARS-like coronaviruses in the clade of this RATG13. So 8 more SARS-like coronaviruses. So we just kept on guessing because they showed a small part of this sequence, you know. They deposited a very small part of the sequences in the database, and it was also close to RATG13. But now, means now I think in April 2021, now they deposited these genomes in some Chinese first database and then the general database. So after, like, you know, 1 year and 4 months, now they are telling this information which they might be having since 2018 also.
This information of the full genome sequence.
Yes, yes.
Of RATG13.
RATG13 sequence they told in 2020, early 2020. But the genome information of these 8 coronaviruses, they did not share with us initially. And they even did not share us that there were 8 more. So they hid this information and they disclosed it in part by part. Like now, after I think the WHO team came back and everything was ruled out. I mean, WHO ruled out the lab leak hypothesis, or they said it is very unlikely. Now comes the paper, and that too in a bioarchive. It is a, you know, preprint server, that they say that, you know, these 8 coronaviruses from that mine are far away from RATG13. So please don't, you know, sort of, please don't look here, sort of thing.
So what happens now?
So these are just, means the lab leak hypothesis was proposed from long time, like about a year, I think it is going on. So there were few people saying, because these are more scientific things, but obviously people had this doubt because of the WIB being the premium lab, having largest collection of coronaviruses. They know that Zinglishi is working on them. So several people had said about this lab leak hypothesis. Even President Trump was saying that it comes out from the lab. Mike Pompeo had said, and recently there is some intelligence investigation by this. I was reading about this Lawrence Livermore document, right? Today only I was reading about that. Even Scott Gottlieb, the former this FDA president, he also said that it could be a possible lab leak. And in even May 2020, people were guessing that it could have originated from a lab, but it did not get much momentum. And during the presidential elections and also on, it was, you know, this topic went a little bit behind. And I think it was this article by Nicholas Wade, I think, that, you know, it sparked so much of discussion, followed by, that was one thing. But before that, what happened, you know, that people relied on the WHO, that something would come out from the report, right? Yeah. So we also were waiting for the report, but then nothing came out. They did not give the lab origin of a proper weightage, you know. And after that, we published 3 open letters to WHO. So we are also a group of scientists. Not only that, I'm not only the part of the drastic team, but I'm part of 26 different international scientists. Some are very high-level scientists. For example, Dr. Richard Ebright, who has been very vocal about that it is very dangerous, you know, to do GOF kind of research. Lab leaks can happen, and in general, the safety level concerns. So Professor Richard Ebright is in our group. So we signed 3 different letters saying that this investigation should be done in depth. The WHO has not investigated the lab leak properly, and it is a question of, that time it was maybe 3 million deaths, now it is like 3.5 million deaths, and this should be properly investigated. But later on, then we were hoping, our international group was hoping that the World Health Assembly would take a notice and they would pass certain resolution or a certain plan about the next year, what they will do. But I think they did not, they haven't published any proper plan about the investigation. So now the United States has taken a lead into President Biden has said that they want to do this 90 days investigation using the intelligence, about which China, I think, is not very happy about that. But because of this, I think India has also shown support, last, I think it was 10 days ago. I think we should support USA at least morally, or I mean, all the countries who have been affected, they should, that is my personal opinion, they should support, if USA is going to do this, we should support them, no? Because leave all the political matters aside, I think we should find out what exactly happened, and as far as we can go to this particular investigation, because if we know what happened, we could, and if it was a human error, or if it got out because of a research accident, this could be avoided, because the natural things cannot be avoided. But if it was because of a lab-derived accident in any form, means just ignore whether it was a lab construct. It could be also a sample leak. But then all the safety measures come into play, that how everyone should handle material which has viruses and so on. So.
Right. And anyway, this coronavirus has really completely ravaged the world, and India, of course, being amongst the most deeply affected.
Most affected, yes.
Yeah. What are you planning to do? How are you going to take this forward?
Yes, I'm looking at, because I'm a scientist more trained in genomic analysis and metagenomic analysis. I found some interesting data from the early patient samples in WIV, like they have deposited this data. So there are some, interesting data coming out from there. So right now I'm engrossed, in analysis of that data. Seeker, yeah, I just read a statement from Seeker, I think in Times or something, that he takes every day by day, and he has, this inquisitive nature, and he has knowledge about this Chinese also, so he gets new and new documents, he finds them out, and maybe that could lead to some breakthrough, because you never know that, because he has provided this very important, and I forgot to mention about one Seeker's achievement recently. So he found three more theses by Zenglishi students, published in 2014, 2017, and 2019. So there were 3 more hidden sort of theses, and in one of the theses from 2017, they clearly said that they did this major amount of work on coronaviruses in S2 level labs. Mm-hmm. So this is very low security, because the other day I was talking with my, I have a friend in NIV in Pune. We have a National Institute of Virology. So she's told me that whatever such kind of work should be done in, higher security levels, so 4 level labs.
So do you believe that Dr. Shi Zhengli deliberately suppressed this information?
About
this connection between RA4991, RAPG 13, and the SARS-CoV-2 connections?
Now we do not know really what has happened. So what has happened really, that we do not know, whether it was a lab construct or it was a natural leak. But in general, tendency of anyone, for example, if there has been a mistake by anyone, the natural reaction would be to hide it, right? So either it could be that, or it could be the general tendency of Chinese people to, not let out more information and to suppress it. No, and maybe she was under some government orders or something that we do not know. even the military connection is getting discussed. So we do not know what she was ordered to tell and what not to tell. So maybe that led to this cover up, because maybe she was not allowed to tell that this was the case. And what happened was a lot of time was spent, by all the scientists guessing what is what. And in that time, the pandemic in Wuhan had suppressed. It had already reached to other countries, and other countries were busy in controlling their own pandemic. So this origin question died out very soon, because the discussion then shifted on, cases, vaccines, and that type of discussion. So it could be a strategy to deflect the attention by giving slow information.
What is the military connection?
Yeah, you must have read about this Li Meng-yang, and she's very vocal. She's the one who fled to the United States, and Li Meng-yang tells us that, it is a bio weapon and so on. It is a military virus and so on. I haven't followed much, means I read her tweets, but recently, to tell you in more scientific terms, I would tell you that in a recent webinar, you must have read about Jamie Metzel. So Jamie Metzel, Jamie Metzel. So Jamie asked Zheng Lishi the question that whether WIV was in a way controlled, or at certain points controlled by the army or PLA. So she replied no. So this was documented in the webinar. He asked it very clearly, and she said that we are a pure scientific institute. We do not have any military connections. And this was then, I think, published in Wall Street Journal or something, this statement, because I think he wanted to clearly ask her, because Zheng Lishi does not respond to emails. Means I haven't asked her, I didn't email her anytime, because I have heard from people that she does not answer. Mm-hmm. So, but we wanted to ask her certain questions directly in the webinar. So I also asked certain questions to her about the cave and, the mine. Mm-hmm. And she said that the mine is closed for the other people. I asked her because then maybe some people later on would say that it is a completely zoonotic virus, because the mine can be visited by other people.
Right.
But she told us that the mine was closed from, I think, 2013 for other people. So it was just the lab people who were going there.
Right. But you believe that there is no military connection, or you don't know enough right now?
There could be, because then this lady, I think, what's her name? Wei, no? She was in charge of the vaccine program, and she took sort of in charge in WIV after February, right? So, and there are, I have read what is there on the internet by even Li Meng-yang. There are military connections. There are some people who are in military. Also, they are scientists at the same time. There are so many people, but means there is no even, I mean, that is also a hypothesis, that it's a military virus and so on. So, but I feel that the lab accident, or accident by which sample got, a person got infected with some sample handling, some sample, or a lab animal got escaped. That theory clicks more to me rather than going to this political, because the military connection is, more influenced by other politics. You must have read about it.
And you were doing all this research completely on your own. This has nothing to do with the Agarkar Institute where you're working right now.
Indirectly it was, because we used to spend evening time, and then in the night we were on Twitter in the early mornings, because most of people were American. They used to chat in the night. So in the morning I used to catch up what they have said and so on. My Agarkar research work is completely different. I work on methane oxidizing bacteria. So the environmentally friendly bacteria, and this has nothing to do with that. But sometimes I had to do some genomic analysis in the lab also, because this was getting more and more scientific. So I had to also invest some time on this investigation.
Dr. Monali Rahalkar, thank you so much for your time, for explaining to the viewers of the print in detail what happened in Wuhan and how it happened, and especially the connections between the Mojiang mineshaft and how you yourself personally connected it to the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which is rampaging across the world, and India has been so badly affected. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jyoti. All the best.
Thank you.